Yeah, it's working. Oh, but there's nothing there. That is not good either, is it? There we are. Just took a second. Now, with public alliances, we are public-public partnerships and public alliances. We have a little bit a different type of organization. What's the main difference, you would say, between public and private? So what do we do in private business? What is our main goal? Profit making, yeah. And I think Adam Smith, when he was sitting and writing like a interesting Wealth of Nation book, was really a short dissertation. You will write a longer one in your MSc dissertation. But he basically wrote something like, it's the idea of a business is to make out of very little a lot. Yeah, so this was the big agreement. You can read it between the lines. If you summarize, the first 80 pages into one sentence, it would be something like that. Yeah? Of course, he used different terms. Yeah? But now in the public sector, Kafka made the joke. This was not a joke. Kafka actually was very authentic about it. He basically pointed out that by each entrepreneurial endeavor, there's always a possibility that you start with something that you try to make a lot out, but you end up making a lot less out. Well, this is always a chance too. And so he put it even worse. It's the art of making out of a lot, hardly little at all. I don't know if that translates, but if you go to Prague, wonderful museum, I recommend going there. And it really resonated with me. And the joke is then, that is what the public service is doing. Okay, that was a joke. So if you work in the public service, don't get. But the idea is the redistribution of tax money that we give in this honorable act of this is our most shareable notion. Yeah, you have your income, you have your profits, and you realize I have so much. I should share this with my community. Yeah, this is basically tax, more or less. Yeah, and then you give it to the taxman who writes your thank you letter. It's just they don't really pitch the words like that, but I'm still dreaming of that. So to get our head around what the public service is about, we have a look at definitions of public-public partnerships, typologies, then the role itself, then international examples, because this is quite a big one. Yeah, we are really in this business, and in Europe in particular, but in Europe in particular more recently so, but international examples exist already for a long time, actually, in all the other continents. Yeah, and they're actually a lot more advanced in that, ironically. Yeah, and benefits and issues, and a little bit the current and future landscape. There's a little bit politics as well in it, but we may skim through that quickly. Okay, so here is a definition and typology. So partnering is a joint working arrangement where partners are independent bodies who agree to cooperate to achieve a common goal, create a new organization structure or process to achieve this goal, a goal maybe, plan and implement a joint program, and share relevant information, risk and regards. So this is kind of the official one from the Audit Commission. If you kind of look through a few different definitions and papers, again the reading is attached as usual. For practical purpose, the PUBs can be categorized really into partnership between two public authorities, partnership between public authorities and communities, and as well development partnerships or international associations that may engage into this. So this is a little bit the gray area. We have as well another session on partnerships with third sector, and you will see that it overlaps a little bit, and it's a little bit the gray area how it's defined. And in the UK we have a wonderful name. What does Quango stand for? Does anybody know what that is? One person laughed, so you do know it.
Well, it's a part of government that doesn't have its own specific department or accountabilities.
Yes.
Something like that.
So Quango is an acronym for quasi non-governmental organization. So arguably this is not public sector, but in reality it's an organization just accountable to the public sector. So if you just have one client, you know, you may as well play their game. There's that recognition in the first place. If you look at typologies of partnership, you will often see that the objective is to lead to improved services. Yeah, and actually most partnerships are, quite frankly. Yeah, then PUBs, as I've named this, I'm not sure if that is no, that is the acronym. I think it's actually in the paper. Yeah, can be used to build capacity in public agencies and the skill of a workforce as well. So traditionally, in many countries, you still have that actually skills of workforce, that training even sits in the public realm. Yeah, this is in some countries this is not true. Yeah? So here we are already in the differences, and we have to kind of look at regional or national context to actually be explicit. Yeah? There can be an effective way of restructuring the public sector and improving public services as a defense against privatization. So we have as well an example there where some public services actually tried to defend the privatization movement that we had as well. And they can help to build stronger community support and accountability for services. They can be used to achieve other objectives as well, such as paving the way for privatization, as it occurs a lot in the US. But again, those are kind of fashions that come and go in nations. It's just very long fashions for us. Normally it's over a lifetime. So we don't really recognize it as fashions, but if you look at the history over like 300-year remits, you will see it goes and comes. And it really kind of waves along with kind of the mood of the people. What we call in Germany Zeitgeist. Yeah? It's a wonderful term for that. Yeah? So what are the types of the PUBs? According to the partner, well, it's public authority. Here we have intermunicipal. What does that mean, intermunicipal? So what could be an example? Okay, I'm talking hieroglyphs. This is always a bad situation for the lecturer. So intermunicipal is, for example, the Newcastle Council decides to work with North Tyneside Council and the little Tynemouth, they're not really a council, but anyway, to make a wonderful paved cycle path for robots to cycle from Tynemouth to Northumbria every day to work it back. So this would be a reasonable inter-municipal public authority partnership.
Municipal.
Yeah, I'm in support. I would vote for this. And then I would have these dotted lines that separate me from the cars, not the other way around. Okay, never mind. But then we have as well government and municipal, and actually, so this is the idea. You have the national arrangement of parliament and the department arms that kind of enforce their powers, working with a local arrangement. And this can have very different forms depending on the country where you are. So here we have actually this formalized with councils. In other places it may be just a community leader. If you look at places like Afghanistan, there are wonderful documentations at the moment about it. You will see it's just a family order that basically lives in this region. He is well connected with all the families of the local communities. He is that institution, if you want. He's the representing voice. So it can be as simple as that. And everything in between works as well. Now with places like the United States of America, you will see that they have a Washington. We have now as well the European Union, where we have a, what is a, this is an interesting question. What is a Washington of Europe? Does anybody know? European Union? I take rough guesses.
Brussels.
Yeah, Brussels is a good answer. I would have gone as well with other answers. Does anybody know? Okay, there's you can maybe have a look and Google it. There's as well the alternative of Scheveningen and Frankfurt for different reasons. So one is a law and one is a bank, but it's we have just distributed it a little bit strangely. Yeah? And okay, so this is you could have here as well kind of representing union an actual government or municipal. So we have a lot of European Social Fund, for example, here in the UK, that in the municipal allows you to do new stuff, interesting stuff. Then we have the public authority community. That is more kind of, I hinted that there's overlap already. So public authority, the community itself, representatives, sometimes representing organizations. So there's nearly already NGOs. But you have as well the next stage then public authority and NGOs. Then public authority trade unions. This is still a very big thing actually in many countries. You have as well private companies working, of course, with trade unions to find arrangements. And then development partnerships, high income country, public authority, low income country, public authority. Now this is often how it's portrayed in literature. I've seen it as well the other way around. So knowledge exchange goes nowadays either way. Does anybody know the product, the brick? Brick for the internet? Okay, so it's new stuff. If you have weak internet in your region, you want a brick. It comes from, I think it comes from Nigeria, yeah. But was a government project. They developed it because their infrastructure for internet wasn't good. It's now we are queuing for this stuff. And if you're living somewhere around Inverness or where internet isn't good, that is what you want to have, yeah. Yeah, then we have as well the international hubs, so public authorities from neighboring countries, so partnerships to kind of do comparison and see what works well, what doesn't work well, and then as well public authorities from different countries. So this is kind of a typology. Wait a minute, where are we? We could just complete this quickly, this section. So with partnerships with other public authorities, you have as well kind of the mix up of it, so a clustering effect. So for example, in the region here in the northeast, we have a lot of arrangements where the different councils come together to share a pot of resources and look at good practice, what they have done to install it then as well in their municipalities. That's not sub-municipalities, in their municipalities. So you get the idea, it adds up. We have as well partnerships with communities and NGOs and trade unions. Here the examples that I was really familiar with was in South Africa, which involved really the trade unions to find new arrangements for the community. This had to do as well with security, so earnings were basically at a level where they could make a living and improve as well their livelihoods. So this is something where third sector engagement is actually quite powerful. Then you have as well international partnerships. So this is the development partnership type that I kind of pointed out, in which a public authority from a country with higher income enters into a partnership with a public authority in a country with lower income. This is not always the case. Sometimes they have just something developed further that the other kind of authority feels meaningful to bring to their authority district, if that makes sense. Yeah. So here you have a second type of hub between international partners occurred when as well public authorities from different countries work together and address a common issue. For example, the Agenda 21 network. Do you know what that was? 21 network? That had to do with internet, bringing internet basically to our countries and places, connecting the world. Yeah. Actually, we leave it with that. And this time I finish on time. Any questions? Quite a run. I'm sorry for that. We are nearly again back on track with the timing. It's actually not too bad. We have like kind of one spare week anyway where we have revision time, but revision is overrated. So you could just use that for having another lecture just to balance it out. Okay, in the seminar I bring as well the copies along. So your assessment is now on the ELP. You can have a look, read through it. Don't worry, it's a 15-pager, but the actual assessment brief is only the first 2 pages. The rest is the case study basically, yeah, that we are using for analysis. But we talk through it in the seminar. Yeah? Okay, I'll see you later. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
let's continue where we left off last time. So maybe just to bring you back to where we were last week, we kind of started with the definition of public-public partnership. Then had a typology of public partnerships, and that is really where we kind of stopped. And today I want to really then start what is actually the role of public partnerships, public-public, and international examples, benefits and issues, and the current and future landscape of this. And for this we have to scroll a little bit through the Panopto, because I haven't figured out how to do this diligently. Hello, Jonas. So this is where we are now. Why public sector alliances? Why do we need them? In other words, the objectives of PUPs. Well, I didn't want to say it the proper way, but normally the reason for starting into a public-public partnership is not so much what we had in the private alliance or joint venture attempt of kind of having shared objectives, but often it's more like kind of looking where you can share resources. So this is a major difference. In the public sector, we may have completely different objectives, like what is a good example? Department of Work and Pensions. So they are interested in paying you decently for your contributed trust in them and paying taxes, and they want to give you a wonderful retirement life and things like that. Whilst they, for example, share certain resources with the Department of Innovation, University and Skills, which has completely other kind of objectives. But again, it makes sense for them to, for example, share resources, because they kind of have the same hub. So, for example, now slightly controversial, they share, for example, certain databases, which may raise certain issues, but nonetheless. So this would be an example. So why partnerships? More resources, more impact as well. So often they have a wider remit. If you kind of look at public sectors, they often have regional data, so very purpose filtered data, and it can enlarge. I'm still talking here the whole time about data, but impact goes far beyond that, of course. Then more efficiency potentially, so that they can do something in the same routine instead of bombarding you with individual services. They may have a package approach, one-stop shop, something like that. Then more innovation. They may see synergies. They may be able to collaborate, integrate new technologies. Very controversial example, 2 years ago, the Revenue Office tried to do that. Who knows the story? How much did it cost? It was supposed to cost something like $500,000. Does anybody know? It went wrong. So does anybody know how much it cost in the end? Because it went wrong, $2 billion. This is where we start. This is where okay, it didn't work out that well. But anyway, the possibility was there. You have as well more skills, and more equitable services, more negotiation power as well. So you leverage your power and kind of stakeholder attribute as well. And then you have as well more benefits for disadvantaged groups. So you can, for example, in the UK, it's often a targeted approach that you can as well target in a remit that is meaningful actually to what you're trying to achieve, instead of just having your kind of aims and objectives that you're competing against. So this is actually quite powerful. Now, a famous example is the Audit Commission highlights. Oh no, actually, sorry, this is still the framework. This comes actually from the Audit Commission, why particular agency develop partnerships. And here by agencies, they include as well, like we had already, unions, for example, or agencies that actually serve, for example, the public sector. So you may remember we had the term quangos there. It's kind of businesses run to solely fulfill the purpose for the public sector in the interaction with the private sector, for example. So that those are these agencies that are referred to coordinate packages of services to individuals. So sometimes go as well the extra mile, going behind the public remit and provide a really meaningful service to customers. then to tackle so-called wicked issues. What are wicked issues? Well, what is a wicked issue? Does anybody know? I take guesses. There is no, I mean, there's a dictionary definition, but there are different definitions for wicked issues.
There's an author that I was reading on, he uses wicked as like, kind of like a negative term in projects and like leadership and stuff, so wicked's kind of like a poor outcome or something.
Yeah, so there is a negative connotation, but what is it? Is it you have the problem and that's it, and okay, you solve it, you're fine?
Is it difficult issues that people are more difficult, so they don't try to resolve them?
Yeah.
Is a guess.
Yeah, so wicked issues is normally something that kind of carries on. It's not one problem. It's actually, initially it's one problem, but it kind of creates other knock-on problems. So it's normally associated with complexity. Yeah, so if you do the wrong solution and you kind of solve it, then it normally starts popping up and again. So this is the notion of the wicked issue. Yeah. So wicked issues is, for example, a conceptual. So this is again controversial. So in the news, you may have seen that they were thinking about the benefit system in the UK. There is a belief that it would be better to just give benefits to people that try reapplying for work. Yeah. So this would be one. So the idea is you encourage people to consistently try to go into employment. Now, this is a wonderful idea, but it had a knock-on effect. That means that people have to consistently be assessed if they're actually doing so. And it created a lot of additional bureaucracy. So what it was intended to do turned actually out to be a nightmare, and it had a lot of knock-on effects. And actually we see that at the moment in the system. And I think the current political party has actually removed it again. They've tried to easen it. Yeah? And well, there are wonderful examples of wicked issues. We actually have one later on in our case study. We go to South Africa and look at water supplies. That's a project very close to my heart. It's as well to reduce impact of organizational fragmentation. Yeah, so you come together. Often in departments, you can see that they divide. Actually, I wrote a paper about this. It's terrible for project management, yeah, because you have to introduce yourself to 20 different organizations if you want to work holistically together. And then you see actually the interface becomes very complicated because they have all very narrow targets. And if you want to hit them all, it's often very difficult. So again, partnerships can actually allow shared targets that give a more user-friendly interaction. Yeah? So in projects, for example, mega projects, this is a typical problem. So the Crossrail project, so this is what we would talk about there. Yeah? You can make notes now and ask that question. Yeah? How do you make a mega project actually more biddable and accessible to small to medium-sized enterprises? You want, of course, the local population being part of a project like that, having the ownership, making a wonderful rail link that when you sit in the train you think, look at the French with the TGV, it's not fast. We have the fastest now. Yeah, this is kind of, I don't know. Yeah, so this was an example. We could pick as well the Germans. Look at the ICE. It's so slow now. Yeah, and look at us. Yeah, so this is the idea. But in reality, those mega projects, who can bid for them? Yeah, it's large companies because it is so fragmented. Yeah, and that is kind of the problem. Yeah, you have to talk to all the different stakeholders, and you are kind of bankrupt before you have started the project. Yeah, because it costs a lot of resources to invest. Oh yeah, sorry, brings me to my next point as well. To bid for or gain access to new resources, it's again sharing and making the interface. So basically avoiding duplication. Yeah? If you have fragmentation, then you duplicate a lot of the processes too. Yeah? So this is quite important to recognize. And to meet statutory requirements. Yeah? So this is particular in some countries, fragmentation can actually undermine that. Yeah? So this is quite interesting. So with this we come actually to, if you look at the objective of the, how do I say that nicely? I think the proper term to say it is actually pubs. Yeah. So we just go with that. Objectives of pubs vary from those related to service delivery, wider political objectives to those related to private interests. In some countries, you have it actually in the UK, you will see we have kind of a segregation there, yeah? Or we have separated the activities into different responsibilities that are held accountable to the parliament and to the people. Yeah? In other countries, we still have that centralized. It may be just a person providing it. If you want to see very interesting documentary on it at the moment, Storyville on iPlayer, if you have it, yeah, about China, about a city that is being built and the mayor just being accountable for the whole city development. Yeah. A single person. So the fascinating example. There you have sent the example where it's still kind of monopolized towards one person, or what is normally unfolded. And we have all the hybrids in between. Yeah? This has not so much to do with the political system necessarily, or the country you're in. There are all kind of factors where you see the different styles there. Yeah? The most commonly stated objective of pubs is the achievement of greater efficiency. This includes improving coverage and access and ensuring greater equity is the right term, yeah, in service delivery. And another frequently stated objective is as well the capacity building. Yeah, so it means as well the attractiveness of the infrastructure, cities you're living in. You know, this can be capacity for you. Do you see the full potential of what you can do in the Northeast? Yeah, the hiking, when the sunshine is out there, all the options that you have there. So, and even if it rains, all the options you have. Yeah? So this could be that as well. And they do that by building institutions, or more specifically by enhancing worker skills. So this is quite pragmatic, aimed at like business. But you could see it as well the other way around, cultural diversity, yeah? or social welcoming. You have access to what's available. Yeah? So this is actually quite powerful. Now here you have as well typology. Yeah, so on one we have the service efficiency and effectiveness. So here the subtypes is often improved efficiency for service delivery, improved coverage and access to services. So you see that, for example, in this region we have Newcastle working under, I think, twisted arms together with Gateshead, yeah, on a more recent one. So this has to do with skills academy and colleges here in the region. Yeah, but I'm joking about this. They of course love to work together. Yeah, and then you have as well promotion of equity and service delivery. So partnerships to look what works well in one. I learned I say the word wrong. Region, I guess, is a good exchange against municipality. How do you say it, Robert?
Municipal.
Not municipal.
Municipal.
Okay, you notice.
Well,
it's an impossibility for me. So we just go with region, yeah, or area. Yeah. So the different areas can then kind of benchmark what works well for them and maybe adapt it. Yeah? So this is often very beneficial. Then we have as well the capacity development and human resources. So you will see that UK, for example, is a very aggressive country in this. They really advertise like world-class skills and elite energy infrastructure for 2015. Yeah? So they are really out there, and they kind of advertise that to the big multinational corporations, and they are not the only ones. Yeah, famous examples as well at the moment for financial markets, for example, Singapore, Dubai, yeah, Sochi, yeah, they are now in the business too. Yeah, again, like interesting dynamics, especially on the city finance market area. Yeah, and yeah, other areas can be as well defense against privatization. Yeah, so this is as well quite interesting. So particularly in countries that kind of have a deep tradition of people and social system or commune-oriented politics, you will see they often go as well into partnerships to kind of provide services. So a good example in Germany, yeah, my research institute that I worked for after graduating with my Master of Engineering in Germany, I worked in the German Federal Institute of Material Research and Testing, and this was completely tax funded. And it was a ridiculous institute to work in. There was no teaching going on.
was just in an institute. We had 2,000 professors that were professors in other universities as well, Great Britain, America, Japan, you name it. They are all coming there to do their research, and they did all the testing and standardization there. And then that's a major facility funded by the taxman. So that there were never money issues. So that's very interesting reason why many work there. But this is of course a luxury that some societies deem desirable, and it was as well defended against privatization. So quite interesting. Then you have as well accountability and participation. So particular when certain divisions of power are desirable. So you may not want the policing or the enforcing force to be the same that makes kind of the judgments. There's often then, it's considered that the French had like a few years ago, when I say years, 100 years ago, they kind of came up with that model, and a lot of countries still buy into that to a degree. So here we have the incorporation of civil society organizations and trade unions in service planning and delivery. Sometimes those are actually still the public ends. Now this is as well possible. Improved transparency and accountability in service delivery is another one. So there is still this feeling that it's not yet open. So with the marketization, there was as well an agreement to let the market decide, instead of like maybe small groups that represent. And the hybrids still exist, of course. And then many other objectives too. So this was just an example really from the paper that I haven't referenced. So this is poor practice, but it's in the further reading. You will see it's a paper basically that is facilitating PPPs. What is that? Yeah.
Not sure about that.
Yeah, but it was really, I mean, what I kind of heard was right. So it's public-private partnerships, and it kind of comes from the commercialization of a lot of services that were in the past done by the government in the UK. And it's spread worldwide. It's a very popular thing in countries all over the world. So basically using private companies to deliver the infrastructure and running it as well. In addition, the objectives of the partners in a pub do not have to be the same. So this is again the key. I hinted at already. So they don't have to be the same. Different partners may have different objectives. This is very important to recognize. Now, typical pubs activity have to do with reforming and democratizing decision making and planning. So this is often you have an accountable board that agrees to the decisions. So you basically just provide the information. You inform the board, representing the parties that have interest in this, with the reliable information, and respectively they basically provide a common interest based decision. And with that comes as well institutional and human capacity building, including, oh, wait a minute. I've just realized that you have a terrible experience here. So, there we go. Sorry, my apologies. So institutional and human capacity building, this includes as well training of managers and workers to boost capacity, and public sector ethos, including integrity, equity, clarity, accountability, transparency, openness, and cooperation and evaluation. Now, I treat that with a little bit care. This is kind of very UK, America, Australia, so what is in literature Anglo-Saxon fields accounted for. Yeah, you would say that some of that may actually be already private. Yeah, in many countries you see actually that training or sometimes even schools are actually led by companies. Yeah? This is traditionally normally how training facilities and schools came about. This was just later that was actually kind of taken into a public remit. Yeah, you still see that in the infrastructure and the names. In the UK, does anybody know the Nuffield Foundation? Nuffield? Some people not. Well, what do you know Nuffield for?
health, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, health. So they have hospitals. They have their own hospitals. Very true. What else are Nuffield famous for? Does anybody know what they actually kind of became big with? What product did they manufacture? It came with gears and had a steering wheel and worked very well on racing courses. It's cars. Yeah. That is where they came from. And they built kind of the first cars around the beginning of the 20th century, became a multinational company and started developing around their factories, villages. So they built schools, kind of the infrastructure to keep the employees happy. And as well hospitals. Yeah, this is where they come from. They have now moved out of that. Yeah, and they are heavily now influencing politics and yeah, so they do all that. Yeah, they do as well training, educational standards, things like that. Health, there's a whole raft of things. Similar examples in Germany, Bayer, yeah, the Bayer villages, or SAP has as well their own cities. So it's slightly Google, same thing. You name it. So in China, the construction company CCCP, wait a minute, CCCP, they have the same. Yeah, they have actually a whole city where they kind of provide accommodation and education. And it's actually pretty decent standard, the education. Yeah, if they apply here to study here, they would be accepted straight away because they have a very high condition, very high quality of education system. Yeah. I say straight away they have to have the marks too, so that's the minimum. But anyway, so that's to give you a little bit an idea and maybe see that a little bit in perspective. Then you have as well managerial consulting, training and capacity building again as one of the typical activities. Then administrative support, including working conditions, salaries, benefits, and supervision of outside contracting. So in the past we had those public agreements on certain agreed skills. They would have a minimum pay. Yeah? The leftovers are still with people like me. I belong to, I don't belong, but I'm associated as teacher, lecturer in higher education. So you can figure out on the salary setting, of how much I earn, how much I could earn in London, how much I could earn in Scotland, and how much I could earn in Wales. You can compare that and see and write me a letter if you think I deserve that. Or it should be less, something like that. I'm always interested in that. Yeah, and then last but not least, it's as well maintenance, including repair, replacement of equipment. So this may be infrastructure that they are running, so streets, general infrastructure. But in the past as well, hospitals, schooling systems, and we have examples like that as well.
Well, when you use the term pub, are you talking about a public partnership with the private sector, or is it a public partnership of any description?
So this is public partnerships, pubs. So and we defined that last week. Yeah. So this was kind of it can be as well third sector. So this was where the ambiguity was created. All the quangos, quasi-governmental organizations that are in reality private. Or as well training, all of those. As well training providers that just provide training, for example, for the public sector. This would go as well into the pubs literature. And ethos as well, so things like sustainability and the environmental agenda that we see a lot. This is as well supporting social enterprises potentially that would classify as such too. So with this you have as well financial planning, social tariff setting. So this is as well, you kind of determine what people can afford. So actually public transport is a popular one. But what do you think about the prices here of bus or metro? Is it fair? Is it money for value? Too high, too low? Have you used it? First question, have you used a public transport? Yeah, okay, some people not. But my personal highlight in experience was great laughter at the same time as fascination was riding on the bus number 1. Yeah, if you take that from here to Coach Lane Campus, just as an experience, I can recommend it. You will see that a double-decker can go through roads that I personally didn't think are fit for actually going with the cars through it. They will zoom through it, and it's a little bit like a roller coaster rider, but I'm joking. But there was this experience for me, so I found it fascinating. But what about the prices? Is it expensive? Is it cheap?
Quite expensive.
Quite expensive. Okay. So and how do you compare this? Is this just like for taking the bus? You consider like this is so much I'd rather walk.
Well, there's no real comparison towards when you go to London, then metro prices are good, but that's because they're insane down there.
Okay, so against London, no chance. Newcastle is actually cheap against London,
That's
but still the
expensive.
perception is it's too expensive. Yeah. Okay. How about others? Yeah. So this is actually publicly agreed. Yeah. So this was actually decided in kind of a council cluster. Yeah. That kind of caters for this, and they have set the price limit. Yeah, and then substitute what it costs more. And the public sector has gradually moved out. So arguably, those providers run it now at a profitable basis, which means that the profit is already tailored in. They run it basically on a cost basis. In a lot of societies, you have actually that agreements are made to have it cheaper. Has anybody used public transport in Manchester or maybe Leeds?
Leeds.
Yes? Similar prices?
I think so. No. Yeah, I think so. I don't recall them being different.
I think it's cheaper, right? It's under £1. No? Well, what did you use? Sorry, did you use the subway or the bus?
I got the bus.
Okay, but that must have been under £1, right?
Uh-oh.
Okay, so last time I was there, I have to admit this is 2009, but they basically still had substituted transport, same like Manchester. So they had actually a hearing locally, so they substituted, so it should be a lot cheaper. Yeah? And in some countries, it's completely ridiculous, it's just for free. Does anybody know where that is? Where's public transport for free? You may have had it before. Has anybody been to Shanghai? Did anybody use the Baglev? Oh, you miss again out of the great transport opportunities. So in some cases, they have just basically made it as a package. As long as you have a ticket, you can basically waive it, and then you are on it for free. It's arguably the same if you use a train, right? If you buy a train and you come to Newcastle, you can use the what is the inner city circle of the metro for free. I mean, it doesn't get you far, but it would get you to Haymarket, for example, I think. No? Okay, nobody reads the fine print. I was fascinated by it. I have to say that the last mayor was actually a colleague of us. So he was a reader here at the university, so that was a past mayor of Newcastle. This is why I looked a little bit into this, but I was quite fascinated by it. Okay, so there were a few examples already, but let's dive a little bit more into the international examples, because that is the cool stuff. And as we do with good international examples, we start with the UK partnering history. Now, this was one of the export hits of the UK. So even like countries with a long history of big infrastructure and just general public projects were suddenly looking over to England and thought like, oh, this is interesting, maybe we should adopt that. Does anybody know what it was about? How did it start? Do you know this? The partnering history. Why did we suddenly think that partnering may be a great idea? Okay, so there was a feeling that a lot of public sector had little money to spend to really do the right projects that were needed for the society. Yeah, so normally out of a financial constraint in the public purse, you would consider maybe doing a partnering with the private sector or compensate basically for resource shortage. So here partnering working became an important theme during the conservative 1990s, but was driven particularly forcibly by the policy of the last Labour administration. So this is a little bit history, just took the snippets, but this was partly driven by the need to coordinate public services that had been fragmented by a generation of outsourcing and the breakup of large public providers. So it was really a political interest initially, but it caught on. So here's an example. There are instances in the UK where a number of district councils have combined to use shared internal audit service, municipal. Okay, yeah, this word, yeah. And health authorities have pooled their budgets in overlapping areas of social service responsibility, and neighboring municipalities have merged their building, refuse collection, and refuse collection and vehicle maintenance departments. This is still a hot topic, with as well recycling, where we see actually that I mean, this is still a current topic, that you still see around the world. In some nations, this has gone completely private, with recycling to private providers. In other places, it has gone completely national. And we have here kind of a hybrid in between in the UK. So a very interesting example. There are also examples of central government agencies working together to deliver services. For example, the pension service, TPS, and disability carer service were brought together into a new executive agency of the Department for Work and Pensions. So fascinating there. In April 2008, the new agency, the Pension, Disability and Carer Service, DPCS, is however largely invisible to the customer, as at the local level the TPS and the DCS brands are still in operation. This is well so that clients basically recognize the department that they're dealing with. So there's again a brand value, ironically, behind that. So it's a very interesting one. And in this time, we had as well a lot of fragmentation of a lot of departments, which is interesting. Now in Europe, if you look a little bit wider, you can see as well the European Union has paid particular attention to cross-border cooperation. So this is CBCs between public authorities and neighborhood or neighboring countries. There are specific funds and policy groups that set up support, such as partnerships, such as European cross-border regions created at UEA level. These CBEs consist of vertical and horizontal policy networks structured according to the institutions and actors involved. Now, actually the European Union has a lot of those that are very flat, so they don't have actually the matched kind of fragmentation of institutions that we have here in the UK. So one very famous one that you kind of see advertised everywhere is the European Social Fund. It's on the metro, and you can see it as well in a lot of infrastructure that has been built here. So the European Social Fund was not just for the public sector, but as well for private sector. So I have as well a dear friend that actually started like his business on that basis. He was very much interested in kind of creating a social enterprise and a training and community center, and basically got the money. From the European Social Fund. And I think some of you have as well experience with this probably. It's a how did you perceive the process? Is it easy to get or to work with the?
It's very bureaucratic, because it obviously has to hit the certain criteria for funding itself.
Yeah.
I think we're more concentrated on outcomes. I know it's just a word, but outcomes more than outputs.
Yeah.
All our funding.
You have to kind of hit your kind of quarter annually outputs or the outcomes. Sorry, that you are setting.
It's a bit fluffy.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's kind of conflicting is if you apply here for it in the UK, in some departments they use it. So then you kind of comply to your department's criteria, and then hidden to this, you get as well the criteria from the European Union that you can fill too. So it's associated what was branded in the employer forums as red tape, or it's perceived a lot of bureaucracy. Yeah. So so there's a plus and minus to this, but again, it has enabled a lot of undertakings to be done, or entrepreneurial endeavors. Yeah. So under that point, quite interesting. Here, this was a partnership. So in Central and Eastern Europe, a new trend in making international connection has sparked twinning, for example, agreements and mutual information sharing visits, usually with municipalities.
Say Munich.
Pardon?
Say Munich.
Oh, you want to? Let's do this after the lecture.
Yeah,
and in nearby countries with a shared, I just replace it with region from now on. This works as well. These connections create new elements in international policy networks. Yeah. So there's an interesting example. Does anybody know who the twin cities are, for example, for Newcastle? It's written on the sign when you drive in from the from Timos, for example, into the city, or as well from the south, from Gateshead. Those are the strange flags that you kind of see under "Welcome to Newcastle," and then you see like little flags with strange names where nobody knows what it's from. Now, a really funny one, and don't use Google Translate, because otherwise this goes terribly wrong. Is I think was and has a partnership with Aschaffensburg in Germany. Yeah, so this is when you leave from Newcastle, kind of on the A1058 towards Tynemouth or Moorfields. You basically see the sign just behind the bridge, and just it's a very long name. You will notice this, but if you type that into Google, it brings up terrible, confusing concepts. So that is always very entertaining. But they have a partnership, and they work on aspects of recreational space. So this is quite interesting. So they share best practice, or they basically came for a visit to Aschaffensburg to look how they are basically creating infrastructure for cultural lifestyle in the community, and I'm pretty sure it was, and tried to basically copy this, more or less, or they put incentives in place to encourage local entrepreneurs to step into this area to make it available to the local population too. Yeah. So interesting. If you're interested in that, certainly worth researching. Now there's further international partnerships. So in the US, there is a type of partnership termed a revolving fund, set up by the US federal government for the different regions, which benefit from the better credit rating for higher institutions. So here the type of funding relationship also been advocated by a number of bodies as a way of facilitating regional borrowing in developing countries. And what's quite interesting, you have even in Silicon Valley things like IBM and Google actually went on public partnership funds and kind of developed the infrastructure to become a business. So they use as well money like this to kind of start up as a support service before actually starting going into business. There are also government regions, partnerships to develop housing in declining communities. In Pennsylvania, US, a bond issued by a city with a good credit rating of financial capital expenditure on schools run by school boards with a low financial capacity. So these partnerships allow us for development where otherwise they may not be eligible for. Similar arrangements are as well in Canada and other places, so the examples are there. We have as well other international partnerships. Actually, this is one we will work through. This is the water supply in South Africa, and this was together with the Swedish Union, but this is a case study we'll look at. If you want to have different pubs in Africa as well, Alex has done with I think it was actually UNESCO that did this research. They have kind of mapped out successful pubs. So this is certainly as well something investigating. Effectiveness, we will look at that in the seminar. Did you have any questions so far? Okay, in the seminar we will look at the South African example with the water supply, very interesting one, and how they actually work together. This is hubs and as well as third sector. So this is a little bit an edging example, but a very good case study. Yeah? Okay, thank you very much. Other than with my prezi that I still have left. So first a little bit rest lecture. I still should introduce to you the effectiveness. And so what is the effectiveness of the pubs? Yeah, and here advantages, I said it already. Pubs have a number of advantages over other partnerships based on commercial objectives. They can be summarized as mutual understanding of public sector objectives or ethos. In particular, if you have a quite coherent kind of political party or a consent-based system, then this can be very powerful, because you go the extra mile beyond your targets to kind of make it work with the intent you set out or with the promises that you gave. Now, if you are based on a conflict party system, then this may be very difficult. Yeah? So this is quite interesting, actually. Then you have as well transparency, accountability, low transaction costs. We had that already a little bit. Administrative costs around 2% of projects. So this is normally how it's priced, and can involve local civil society workforce where required. And possibility of reinvesting 100% of available financial resources into system. So this is to say, if you have like public commitment and you do it with tax money, it kind of comes from the people. So you can as well reinvest it in the people, and then it returns, of course, to you. Does that make sense? So So, we controversial example on camera. So as we bailed out recently in the UK and Europe the banks, an alternative model would have been to give every citizen of Europe and everybody that is at the moment in Europe just the equivalent in cash to spend. Now this wouldn't have been big amounts, so the Deutsche Bank would have been heartbroken. Instead of 24 billions, they wouldn't have got anything. Instead, each of us would have got something around £5,000 that we could have spent freely. Now, that then is normally spending. Oh, sorry, excuse me a second. I just have to go to a special place. Yeah, my apologies. Back from the special place. So we could have spent the 5,000, and it goes back into the economy. Yeah, and with this money, we would have bought things probably that are taxed, as long as we buy from the formal economy, not from black markets or informal economies. That is where it gets dodgy. That are maybe not so properly taxed. Yeah. So this is the idea basically. So other benefits are as well. Partners which have benefited from a pub can become supporting partners of other cities. Yeah? So you have kind of this scheming and mentoring idea. Non-commercial relationships, low risk to municipalities. So in other words, you are not like risking a lot against it. So the dangers of losing a lot is not necessarily great. Although we have other examples where we actually know the opposite. Yeah. Local control over objectives and methods as well. Yeah. long-term gain in capacity building is another one. Yeah, so especially if you invest, for example, into cultural assets in a community, normally that repays because people do know how to do it now, and they may keep doing it. So this can be a carnival. Do we have a carnival in Newcastle? I'm just thinking, what are the Newcastle examples? We have cool festivals in the summer, right? Carnival.
Oh, Carnival. Do they still have that evolution down the quayside?
Yeah.
That's alright.
Yeah, so we have the scientific outreach, right, where all the universities show off, and then we have as well.
Are you thinking music festival or science?
Yeah, I was just thinking there's a big science fair as well that I was as well involved the last 2 years, but.
They still have that. From the life center,
yeah, but otherwise, we had. I remember this is quite some time now ago. 2008, 2009. There were kind of a band weekend on where nearly in all the local bars and pubs there were live bands, which was for newcomer bands, and it was kind of a theme thing. And that carried on, I think, for 2 or 3 years, and I really enjoyed it. There was a lot. There was everything from folk music to kind of classical pieces to indie rock, pop, you name it, and even house parties in between, and house music. So it was quite impressive. But is this still happening?
You don't think? You think of the labour like that, like they have events.
The Lake Group?
The late groups, they have like music events on throughout like 3 days.
Maybe it has been rebranded. I'm actually quite naive here, I have to admit. I should have done my research better. Yeah, but the idea was you have often cultural events that often come from pubs, and not the where you get the drink, but not the pub. Yeah, okay. It carries on, as a movement, and this is kind of what you often intend with those as well. So to create kind of capacity building elements. So here in the region, more practical example, for example, the public partnerships between the companies and Walker. And I actually researched with them, so I wrote as well proposals for them to bid for money, and they have there now training centers, new factories for new technologies. So they build, for example, the offshore wind farms, the assembly basically. So they get the engine from Siemens, and the blades come from a. Shall I give the supply chain way? No, okay. Well, cabling is done by Duco, and then I keep it ambiguous. Yeah, and then they install it offshore. Yeah. So it's actually quite interesting, and that came from a public partnership that kind of facilitated money for a training center and linked the community to what the companies were doing. And this has spun off. Now they train as well. Hello, quite all right. For this. Okay. Oh no, I've broken it. I think. Oh no, I haven't. Good. Now, benefits for partnership working. We had that already a few times. So those are the benefits generated after the public partnership comes to an end, as a reduced transaction cost, increased outputs, and improved outcomes. Again, for example, greater social cohesion. This is often an intent of the pubs. They have as well often a strong capacity building element, reflecting their focus on sustainable improvement and service delivery. They also tend to be oriented towards long-term societal objectives rather than short-term cost recovery. And because neither partner is taking a profit, revenues can be fully reinvested in services and maintenance. So this is actually quite interesting. So as well from the bailing out of the banks, the government gets actually a lot of interest, because a lot of it was loans as well. It's a low interest rate, but nonetheless, so there are actually returns coming, so that should be an interesting payoff. What makes for an effective partnership working? Those are kind of the general indicators. I mean, this is good as an orientation, but you kind of need to assess this, of course, on your partnership. So often you get a balanced team. So as with all organizations, if you're too one-sided,
then you can as well kind of become very involved in particular agendas. Yeah, so it does make sense maybe to team up with other organizations to kind of balance a little bit the perspectives of the team members. Yeah? So balance teams, trust, motivation, conflict resolution mechanisms sometimes as well. Yeah? Collaboration, clarity of objectives and responsibilities, and appropriate funding, and continued sponsorship, and of course room to maneuver. Yeah? So famous metaphor, what does a bird do in the mouth of the crocodile? Just get eaten?
Cleans his teeth.
Yeah, cleans the teeth. Yeah? So this is a metaphor, partnerships are built on trust. Yeah? So this is very important. Now then barriers to partnership working is as well, so basically once you have destroyed trust, this can be even still in the same partnership, your first partnership, it's very likely to fail. Yeah, so if once you have created barriers to overcome those, this is a very much an art in itself, to overcome then broken trust and rebuilding it. So previous failed attempts normally kind of put enormous barriers into the way. This can be for political reasons. Yeah? So in a lot of countries where public organizations are kind of policy-led as well, or where these institutions are part of political party and interest, you may find that a project just failed because the party that came into power thought, oh, this is a crap project, doesn't really reflect our values, we use the rest of the money to do something different. If that happens, then you may burn as well the contacts that were actually involved. Yeah, it's quite common actually in many different countries and different systems. Different organizational cultures. Yeah, so maybe one is quite financial oriented, and the other one very social impact. And this can be very alienating if you have then the debates and you try to find a common ground. Then that may be quite contradicting. Varying expectations of partners, it relates a little bit to the cultures as well. Lack of senior commitment, so it's kind of proposed, but then when it comes to resources, no commitment is given from the top. Short-term funding regimes and uncertainty is a favorite one. Yeah? Regime is shifting. Yeah? Then normally nobody wants to take the decision anymore. Yeah? Because everybody's conscious that they may be the last person held responsible for going in the wrong direction. And inequitable sharing of costs, risk and rewards is another one. Poor information exchange within and outside the partnership, and conflict between addressing local and national priorities. Although this can go any way. So this can be as well like kind of your project ground here, and then what the bigger scheme of things is as well European side. So this doesn't have to be even national only. Or there can be other political pressures that come from outside the nation. Then partnerships created from outside through the central government initiatives can create as well conflict, especially when they are imposed. Yeah, so outside pressures that don't relate to the local are normally, you are pretty much safe to get into conflicting waters. Other barriers are complexity of task. This is particular in the large in the mega projects that are run between pubs. Then lack of staff, lack of skills of staff, and actually the pre-planning and committing as well the resources that become an issue. Decision-making capacity, this goes often hand in hand with a lack of skills. So people are not comfortable with what has been developed, proposed, and that they don't know if yes or no is a good answer. It becomes an issue.
What's that? No, can you go see what that is? I can't.
What?
Can you hear the banging?
Yeah, it's a door next door.
Really? Is it not got like one of those closing things?
The students leaving, that is the room next door, right?
Sounds like they're going.
Oh yeah, it's because we have here the fire doors that close automatically. That when never mind. Let's not go into too much detail for that. But it's bad. So decision-making capacity is another one, and political issues again, lack of financial resources in partner organizations, and differing working culture. So again, we had those already. There are in general real barriers to the working with each other, clash between national and local policy again. Actually, in the Northeast, we're quite famous for this, especially having, so this bang is the door, basically. Yeah. The Northeast has actually a reputation of having light disagreements with the British Parliament, for example. Yeah. Cost of joint working are often as well underrated, so it's the extra time taken to work in partnership. Actually, I suppose this is as well in a lot of group work pieces. At university, I see this too. Students underrate the time it takes actually to come together and work in a collaborative effort as a team. And it's the same for the companies that often just think that one does that and the other one does that, and they don't consider actually bringing it together and really figuring out to make it work cohesively and basically coherent as well. The extra financial cost as well is another one. Sorry, I have to leave again for a second. Sorry. And as well the delay in action due to the need to resolve differences and the loss of control over one's own organization's activities as well and or resources. So especially if you have that on a committee level, you have to both agree to go ahead with things. So this creates a certain dynamic. Okay, we have public to public. This has taken quite some time. Did you have any questions so far? Okay, let's go into an exciting example. What was this, a PowerPoint? Does anybody know? I will have it on my ELP. Let's have a look quickly. Oh, what am I doing? So here we go. Okay, there we are, and with a little bit luck. Ah, it's PowerPoint. Okay. Okay, I should have probably just opened it on my file. This would have been a lot quicker. Okay, let's do the competing experiment. Oh, it's in my old file. Okay, I have it open. This is not good. Okay, we go with the downloaded version. I think I've crashed it. This is not really helping, is it? Yeah. Okay, I just open it on the ELP. Okay, so this is basically the example, and this is vineyards near Cape Town. Yeah, it's If you ever go to South Africa, I can strongly recommend it. It's a beautiful landscape. So it's a little bit the vineyards are of course kind of artificially made, but the countryside around it is still in its original setting. It's beautiful. Can recommend it strongly. So this is really about South Africa's water partnership. So PUPS versus PPP. That is kind of the idea that we are analyzing. So you have two case studies in front of you. And what we are curious about is really to compare them and see the remit that they have, the value they brought, and where they may differ. Yeah, and if they were both successful, this is a big question. Yeah, you will see in the overall aim and objectives that they set out to do, they delivered. But the question is as well, did they really deliver what they were setting out to do? Yeah. So we look again at the dynamics in the partnership. I hope that makes sense. So following the end of apartheid, local authorities in South Africa were restructuring with the aim to integrate and reduce huge inequalities in service delivery. So actually from the background it was pretty discriminating. And they kind of turned it around, positive reinforcement, positive discrimination. So for example, I as a European there paid 70% tax, whereas normal tax levels are 35%. Yeah, this was just 70%.
Who was?
Me.
70%.
As an employee, yeah, and because I came from a foreign, I had all the worst. So first of all, so there's a positive discrimination against men as well, because they want to balance kind of the working force. So this was already bad. So bad. Then I didn't have South African citizenship. So I was European, and I didn't work for a South African company. I worked for an American company. So this was very bad. So I was kind of in the, and I was single there. I wasn't married there, and I hadn't had any children. So there was very little remit to negotiate. So in the taxing, I was 70% on each paycheck. So this was really heartbreaking. You got this amount, and like, oh, look how much I got, and then you turned around and so little left. But still, to be fair, I earned a lot in comparison. And so it was still well paid, so don't get me wrong. So overnight, many of the, my favorite many of white area councils became responsible for their neighborhood and townships and homelands with low levels of access to basic services, high rates of poverty and unemployment, and in some cases need for major infrastructure investment. Yeah, so this was really the situation kind of 1996. Their existing service delivery models could not handle the new demands. They were encouraged by national government to enter into partnerships. So this was as well because I knew that the infrastructure, I mean in the public service, there were still basically people running it that had a lot of pre-biases. Yeah, that they came from a system that didn't really cater to those needs. So to allow that, they kind of really sat down, started a constitution, and started partnership to have a look at what healthy relationships looks like to get it actually in the right direction. Yeah. So it's as well written. So to build new capacity and as well again access to investment, and there was actually a lot of investment money available for this at the time. Sorry. Yeah, this doesn't really help. I don't know why they've put so many townships on there. This is not what South Africa looks like everywhere. Those are particular townships. Yeah, I should point that out too. So Nelspruit and Hardsmith are two such examples where local authorities took different paths. And this is a case. So you have both examples, and one case is a PPP and one is a PUPS. Yeah. So have a look, read them. You can as well do it in pairs. So maybe group up with somebody, or you can do it as well with three if you're sitting that way. Yeah, but pair up, read the two case study, summarize the main objectives each, yeah, and maybe discuss it as well to come to a common understanding. And then we want to kind of compare the similarities and differences between each study. Yeah, so they have a very similar pre-setting, yeah, and the interesting thing is, was either approach successful in meeting the objectives, and which approach do you favor and why? This is a big question. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Okay, let's get started. And I get. Oh, I have more tissues. I'm sorry. Are there copies left, or did you have a copy?
I brought them with me.
Oh, right. Did you want some?
That's not fine.
Okay.
No, no, I've got copies.
Did you have both? Yeah, case study 1 and case study 2. This is what we are comparing. Yeah.
I was trying to get case study 2 last night
Okay.
and couldn't find it.
Oh, I see.
That's my email.
But they are under each other, right?
Yeah, but you know you've got those boxes.
Yeah.
I click on them, they don't open.
What browser are you using?
Sorry?
What browser are you using?
The browser might isn't too much of a complicated question for me, I'm afraid.
Like Internet Explorer or Chrome?
I go through Citrix to get on, which I've just been shown is not the right way to do it.
Do you use simply web from my?
No.
No.
Both I use Citrix, that's what's on my computer. Well, I'm
This
just
is
showing
outdating, so
Yeah.
you will have problems basically from April onwards. So
I've been having problems before here.
yeah.
It has.
Yeah.
It has. You removed it.
Oh. Good point. Thank you. Oh wait a minute. Let's pause this.